Welcome to part 9 of my story. So we get Madison home, and all is well. She's breathing on her own. She's growing, she's thriving, she's gaining weight. I'm watching everything she eats, every pound she gains. And the interesting thing for me, Ellie wasn't a skinny baby. She was like a lean baby. She just wasn't like a chubby baby. Madison, though, was huge. She was like a cinder block, and I needed to see that. Like, she was so big. I remember lifting her out of her crib was hard because she was so heavy, and she was gaining. She was thriving. She was doing everything, and the fact that she was in the upper percentiles for size was helpful for me to see that she was doing what they wanted her to do. But the question still lingered. We knew she was a genetic match to me and Ellie. Why no trach? So Ellie ended up being treated at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I'll get to Ellie's journey in the next part of my story. But our first trip to Cincinnati Children's was the only time all 4 of us went, me, my husband, and my 2 girls. That was the only time the 4 of us went together. And it was that trip. Ellie was 18 months old. Maddie was 5 months old. That was the first time that we went. And that trip, they scoped me and my 2 kids, my 2 babies. They were babies. For those of you unfamiliar with a scope, I will enlighten you. They take this little tiny camera on this long string thing. They put it up the back of your nose, down the back of your throat, and they look at your vocal cords. Is it unpleasant? Yes, it is as unpleasant as it sounds. It's that bad. It's brutal. I've had to do it countless times, so have my children. And I remember for that scope, the nurse came in before the doctor did the scope, and she gave me a numbing spray in my nose, so it would be slightly more bearable. But she did not numb my children. And I looked at her, like, why don't they get numbing spray? She goes, do you really want me to tell you? I'm like, yes. She goes, because we need them to scream. We need them to be uncomfortable. We need them to cry. She said, if they don't feel it and they don't cry and they're not uncomfortable, they're too young to take direction from us. So, because you have to make noise. They give you instructions. Say E, say ah. She goes, we can't give them directions. They're too young. They have to cry. I'm like, okay. I had to hold my children down while they did this many times. It's the first of many. It's just the way my life was. They scoped me. They scoped my 2 kids. Afterwards, the doctor looked at me and said, Mrs. Worath, you and Ellie, my older daughter, you still have what's called bilateral vocal cord paralysis, meaning both vocal cords are paralyzed. They don't move. I said, I'm well aware. So what about Madison? He said, Madison has it too. Like, okay. $1 million question. I said, why no trach for Madison? He said, Madison, her larynx is 1 millimeter wider than Ellie's. So her vocal cords sit 1 millimeter apart. Then he said, she has, and I quote, nowhere near normal vocal cord function, but they functioned enough that she did not require a trach. Okay? I don't know who's watching me right now. I don't know if you're spiritual or not. Personally, I am. Before I hit that button to record, I say a prayer in Hebrew called the Shema. And I pray that my words reach the people who need to hear them, and then I record. Don't know if you're spiritual or not, but it was after that scope. It was my husband, Christopher. He looked at me. He said, when you were pregnant with Madison, he said, you'd go to bed at night. You'd fall asleep. And I would put my hand on your belly, on our baby, every night. And I would pray that this baby did not need a trach. He said, because I was afraid to do two. He goes, could I have done two? Absolutely. He goes, would I have done two? He said, without question. He said, but I was terrified of what that would even look like. So I just asked God to please find some way that this child would be able to breathe on her own. And obviously God answered that prayer, because there is no logical explanation for why Madison does not need a trach, when the only other two people with this same genetic mutation had trachs for years. I had my trach for 4.5 years. I never thought Ellie would have hers as long as I did. I was wrong. Ellie had it longer. Ellie had that trach for 5.5 years. Join me for the next part of my story to hear Ellie's medical journey.